Only weeks after Argentina's Copa success, a well-rested and rejuvenated Messi turned Bolivians into believers in Buenos Aires. They were on the receiving end of another characteristic Messi hat-trick only days after Argentina's World Cup qualifier in Brazil had been postponed under dubious circumstances. Now, this was not the Messi of the Copa final. The first of his goals was simply awesome. Not because it was a goal that saw the Argentine wizard equaling Pele's all-time South American record, but because of the manner in which it was taken, with a Bolivian defender in very close proximity, breathing down his neck, so to speak. Messi somehow seemed to skillfully squeeze the ball between the players' legs. That nutmeg I told you when necessary, before unleashing one of his trademark left footers high into the roof of the Bolivian goal. A real Messi classic that had the crowd celebrating wildly. The other two goals, simple ones by his lofty standards, yet not so when considered amidst the grand scheme of things. For now, the Argentinian had gone past the revered Brazilian to be the continent's most prolific talisman. Although greatness will have several criteria, it seems that records will inevitably factor in its equation. That notion of doing something unprecedented, to remain competitive and on top of your game for as long as Messi has, is truly flabbergasting. Given the vagaries of form, his durability and longevity in the game up to this point has been factored into the equation that has greatness as its solution. Yet, it seems that even greatness wears a mask. It seems so hard to discern, yet so often we try to define it. Maybe the reasoning or the logic that governs beauty, it is the same one that presides over greatness. It's in the eyes of the beholder. Therefore, greatness becomes manifest when I recapture moments of magic that memory cannot expunge. When Lionel Messi scores a hat-trick against German outfit Bayern Leverkusen and is not content but proceeds to fire in the first five of Barcelona's 7-1 routing of that team, a Champions League record that still stands. Greatness is unveiled when Messi, not renowned for his heading, hangs in the air for an eternity, like he did against Manchester United in that Champions League semi-final, before that sumptuous pinpoint header into the roof of the net. That seemed great. When the Argentine general is caught in the face by one of the Brazilians in the much anticipated El Clasico encounter, but rises, bloody face and all, to score the winner in the Bernabeu. There's a word that describes that kind of grit. When Messi, on one of his menacing runs, mesmerized 4 or 5 players before calmly placing the ball into the goal, I said great. On another occasion in a Champions League match, Messi, on receiving the ball with a few deft touches, totally outwits one of Germany's most talented defenders to leave him on the turf before another of his exquisite chips, this time over the head of the fast advancing world #1 goalkeeper. A goal that only a football maestro could conjure up as the defenders tried helplessly to prevent the ball from entering the goal. There is this tendency to go on and on when talking about this dynamic soccer star. But I'll conclude my story, certainly not his, for his will go on unless there's a sudden twist of fate. But I'll conclude with some sound advice to this modest magician. With the Qatar World Cup only months now away, self-preservation ought to be the name of the game. Take a well-deserved rest. After this, if your team does not accede to this request for rest, then whether or not they have your interest at heart becomes questionable. Secondly, summon shrewd Argentinian strategists, tacticians, managers, analysts, past and present players with a profound knowledge of the game, who importantly are willing to use technology in trying to analyze and even psychoanalyze players and teams you're likely to encounter. Nothing beats learning the idiosyncrasies, athletic and otherwise, of players and teams that could prove bothersome. It is this technology that the Germans, through one of their tentacles, Bayern Munich, had used to try to dissect one Lionel Messi. Just imagine prior to that 2010 World Cup in South Africa, How many tapes of Messi versus Bayern were viewed and reviewed and possibly overviewed in order to learn your every twist and turn? Europeans use technology to great effect. South Americans should use it more, even when there are no discernible weaknesses at play. You could work at nullifying his strengths. The very important point is it pays to learn as much as you can about your opponents. Gather tapes of the Germans. They're your biggest threat in world football. Take it from there, Lionel. Now, what did I forget to mention about this great global icon? Certainly, it would prove to be an effort in futility to try and recapture each of Messi's magical moments. Yet, what I have seen has convinced me. He is the greatest of all time. Playmakers of Messi's ilk do not play for as long as he has. Certainly not at his pace. His free kicks that range from delicate chips over the wall and into the goal to long-range rocket missiles that leave goalkeepers flat-footed and dumbfounded are worth remembering. How about that appearance in the 2005 Youth World Cup, which Argentina won, juxtaposed to his participation in the Senior World Cup final of 2014, despite not winning? How many players have played in two such finals? That calendar year goal record is certainly worth reiterating. A breathtaking 91 goals from only 69 games, an achievement that I have seriously considered to be his signature of greatness on world football. An accomplishment made more noteworthy by the fact that Messi is not an out-and-out striker. He's not a number 9. This record is another distinguishing demarcation in the illustrious career of Lionel Messi that helps to separate the sheep from the G-O-A-T. No kidding. Other records? Consecutive games in which Messi has scored. In Spain's La Liga, Messi scored in 21 successive games while amassing 33 goals during that stupendous run. Yet to be confirmed, consecutive seasons in which Messi has scored 40 or more goals. Talk about consistency. It's not possible to find every fantastic fact about Lionel. But how about that attitude that seems to be none? Not the player to be in your face. The Argentinian ace is back on his feet the second he touches ground, eager to continue the game. Although egregious challenges and tackles will at times solicit a cynical stare. Not one to make a meal of a situation. The best thing you could do to the Barcelona architect is get out the game. Not one to thump his chest after each goal. The Argentine athlete would have by now knocked himself out had that been his habit. Whatever is said of this oh, let's try that again. So, over a decade after winning his first Ballon d'Or, Lionel Messi has procured his seventh. Talk about seventh heaven. Whatever is said of this Argentine virtuoso, his magnificence cannot be overstated or exaggerated. His rise wasn't meteoric, it was meticulous and methodic, almost melodic. You didn't hear it, but you got it. His rise wasn't spasmodic, sporadic, or episodic, for he was constantly at it, consistently the topic. At times it seemed hypnotic. Surely there's a lion in Lionel Messi. Not only do you see and hear it in his name, you can see it in his game. The lion you're yet to tame. In the jungle where he reigns, he escapes the human chain. Only the custodian remains, but he's brought down to earth like rain. As Messi feigns, goal again. He's king of the jungle, it's his domain. A king so humble, a king he'll remain. You know, in our human existence, there seems to be an unspoken objective where we strive to be the best person we possibly can in order to create the best world possible. In creating the best world possible, we have improved on human mortality, yet, conversely, standards have waned. It therefore seems incumbent on us to read into the mystic message of Messi's magic. It is one that says, in a world of greats, strive to be the greatest. It's not about who has the most fans, it's about who is the best man. It's not a popularity contest, It's about who is the best, as Ballon d'Or would attest. Who has more than the rest? That player who wears the crest of the world's greatest. That player with zeal and zest, with aesthetic turns and twists, with numerous goals and assists. Those moments of utter bliss that has made greatness his. In tribute to the beautiful game, he duly staked his claim. He was dutiful without disdain in honoring soccer's sacred fame. He's a tribute to the indelible flames. Pele, Maradona, Usain, yes, those who reach the zenith of their games. Bolting past cynicism, trials, and pain. He contributed with aesthetics so plain, making it seem like the ball had a brain. Undisputed, his goal scoring acclaim, assisted by assists, big part of his game. His humility comes into the frame. He's Messi only in name, addressing to the beautiful game. A legend he will remain. No messing with the message that says Messi is the man, meant to mold us mortals into more than mere men. I am Colin St. Ledger Lewis, author and narrator of The Mystic Message in Messi's Magic. Hope you got it. Now I've said all of that to say this. Whether Messi wins the World Cup or loses the World Cup, he is the best player ever. What do I mean by losing the World Cup? Well, if a penalty shootout were to ensue, and Messi had the last kick that would determine the tournament, and he kicked it miles over the bar, he would still be the greatest player that ever lived. That's Messi for you. You too can be on YouTube like you too if you're tuned to your virtues. Use tools from your talent pool. They're your tools. Don't be fools. See you. What is this?